Hello, ladies. It's Friday. It's Friday. So as you can see, I have my eyes done, but that's it. So let's finish this face. And I don't know why. I've never done this before, but I have like a Bible story on my mind all day since I woke up this morning. I can't open this drawer. Hold on. And I want to share it with you guys. Like, it's not, hey Marissa, it's not one that's like a big secret. I mean, we all know Joseph, right? We learned that story in Sunday school when we were kids, right? I cannot open this drawer. Okay. Struggling. I'm over it. But what do we know about Joseph usually? Like, we know about his coat of many colors, right? We know that his dad made him a coat of many colors because he loved him so much, right? Hey, Amanda. But, like, y'all hear me on here a lot quote the verse Romans 8:28. And that is actually my mom's life verse, which is why I know it so well and why I've heard it so much my whole life. But it is, like, super impactful for my life and for so many others as well. Like, it really just says, like, for people who love God, that he will work all things together for good. So all the little things that we perceive as humans as bad or as something that's gone wrong in our life, like all those things, all the good, all the bad, all the mistakes, all the things that we feel like are mess ups, anything, he works all those things together for good. And so I was thinking about that, which made me think about Joseph. And his story is really like a big time example of that. And so let's talk about it. Because y'all, every person that's in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, all of them, those are all real life humans that really lived, that really had lives. Their lives may have looked a little different than ours, because they lived a long time ago and the world looked different then. But they were humans. They had the same feelings as us. They had families, they were human. And God puts their stories in the Bible for a reason so that we can relate to them and see, like, what they did, what they didn't do, what they should have done, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're not relating to people in the Bible, you should be, okay? Because they're not above us. They're not beneath us. They're not different than us. They are there for a reason, to show an example. And Joseph is a good example of Romans 8:28. So Joseph was Jacob's son. Jacob and Rachel had a son named Joseph. But Jacob already had 10 other sons, but not with Rachel. Joseph was Rachel's first son. So Jacob had 11 brothers. So he was the 11th, I think. I may butcher this a little because, I don't have the Bible super memorized. But, hey, Bethany. Anyways, he had 11 brothers, okay? But the Bible says that his father loved him the most. Hey, Mama. And that it was kind of like well known in the family that the dad loved Joseph the most. And that's where the coat of many colors story come from. Like, he had made him that coat of all these different fabrics and colors. And the brothers were jealous, okay? Obviously. And he was also the youngest. So then one day, Joseph has a dream. And he tells the dream to his family, his dad, his mom, and the brothers. Hey, Ariel. And I'm not going to tell you word for word the dream because I'm going to butcher it. But it's basically like in the dream, his brothers offer up some grain and the grain bows down to Joseph. And then some other stuff happens in the dream and all the sun represents the father and the moon represents the mom and there was 11 stars and then that represents all the brothers and they were all bowing down to Joseph. And so he tells them that, and, like, they're ticked. They're mad. They're like, what you mean the whole family is bowing down to you? Like, we don't like that. And the dad, he's not mad. He loves Joseph. He's like, pondering it and trying to decide what this means, because, back then they really felt like dreams meant stuff, and they wanted to know what it meant, and like, what is God trying to tell us from this dream, etc., etc. So the brothers have decided at this point, like, we're getting rid of this dude. We don't like him. Hey, Samantha. And so they're out tending the flock one day, okay, because that's what they do. They were all shepherds. And Joseph's kind of like off by himself a little bit, and the brothers see their chance. He's like, okay. They're like, okay, he's way over there. This is our chance. We're about to get him. So they like rush over and push him into this pit. And while he's in the pit, they're like all conspiring together, like, okay, what can we do? We're going to kill him, basically. Like, we're about to kill this dude. And the strongest brother, he's like, no, I don't want to kill him, but we need to get rid of him. And at the same time, a caravan of like camels and people traveling from Egypt that were like selling spices and stuff like that, they were traveling by. And he goes, look, we're going to sell him to them as like a slave, because you could do that back then. You could just sell a person. And we'll tell Dad that we'll take his coat, bring it back to Dad and say, listen, some wild animals ate him. He's dead. We're sorry. And he'll be gone forever. We'll never see him again. And that'll be great for us. So that's what they did. They took his coat. They sold him to the people for, I think it was 20 pieces of silver. Pretty sure. And they came back, told the dad, I'm so sorry. He's gone. He's dead. And they lied to him. Well, because Joseph is a man, there it is, was a man of God, okay? And this is where Romans 8:28 comes in. He got sold into slavery. Like, that's really bad, right? You expect this man to have, like, a terrible life now. Like, everything's falling apart. This is terrible. Like, my brothers just sold me. They wanted me to die. My dad thinks I'm dead. Like, this is terrible. But he gets sold into slavery. And at this point, like, once you're sold as a slave, like, a whole bunch of rich people or, like, people that had some money could come and be like, and look at you and be like, yeah, I want that one. So Potiphar, which was he was like the main general for the Pharaoh. He came and he bought him. And he ended up really liking him and basically let him be the overseer of the entire household. Because when you live for God, you tend to get God's favor. That's how that works. Like, God was watching over him. It wasn't no shock and surprise to God that Joseph was exactly where he was at. Okay? So he ends up being like the overseer of all of Potiphar's rest of his household and all the stuff that he did. Well, over time, Potiphar's wife decides, you know what, Joseph's pretty hot. And I like him. And I kind of want to do some stuff with him. And I want to assume that she's probably like gorgeous and had probably never been turned down in her life. And so she's like shooting her shot at Joseph over and over. And he keeps turning her down. And he's like, no, I'm not going to sin against God. You are married to Potiphar. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to sleep with you. I'm not doing nothing with you. So she eventually gets tired of being turned down and tries to grab him by his cloak she's taking it from him, okay? And he runs off. He, like, gets out of his cloak and runs off. And she is obviously butthurt because, she just been turned down. And so she didn't take that well. So she takes his cloak, which is what he left there with her to get away from the situation, to her husband and says, the terrible thing just happened to me. He just tried to rape me, basically. And they threw him in prison. They threw Joseph in prison for something that he did not do. Okay? Yet again, not a shock to God. Okay? Not something that God didn't see coming. So, Joseph's in prison. Even then, in prison, they showed him favor. The guards kind of let him be like what we would call now a trustee in jail. Like, he was kind of the overseer of all the prisoners down there because he was just like a model citizen or whatever. And while he's down there, the cup maker and the baker for Potiphar, the Pharaoh one, they get charged with something and they get sent to prison. So while they're down there, they have a dream, okay? And they're like, just, I guess, talking amongst themselves, like with the other prisoners, like, hey, I just had this dream. And Joseph just tells them, like, hey, this is what that dream means. The dream, he tells the cup guy, your dream means you're going to go back up there and you're going to be reinstated and they're going to take you back. And he tells the baker, your dream means you're going to be hanged. They're going to kill you. And that was true. That's exactly what happened. But he tells the cup guy, he's like, listen, when you get back up there, tell him to, like, remember me. Like, get me out of here. Like, hey, I didn't do it. Like, take me back. Well, exactly what Joseph said would happen, happened. But when the cup guy gets back up there, he totally forgets about Joseph. He didn't do what he said he was going to do. He didn't, talk to the Pharaoh or to Potiphar about him and try to get him out. He totally forgets about him. So he sits in jail for 2 years. During that 2 years, okay, look, this is looking bad, right? This ain't looking good for Joseph. This is terrible, you think, right? And you have to read the Bible and all the stories in it and, like, imagine yourself in their shoes. Imagine, like, okay, obviously I'm not in prison, but you can think of, like, any bad thing happening in your life. Like, okay, I lost a job, or, whatever. Anything bad. That looked bad at the time. 2 years he sat in there for something he didn't do. And it doesn't even tell you how long he was already in there before that. Okay, so he did some time for something he didn't do. And then after 2 years, the Pharaoh has a dream. And he is perplexed by this dream. Like, it is bothering him, okay? And he's so perplexed by it that he's, like, talking to his main people about it. And in that moment, the cup guy remembers Joseph then, because he remembered that he had interpreted his dream. And he was like, hey, I know a guy who can interpret dreams. Like, he's done this for me. He was right. Like, we need to talk to him. Hey, Ariel. So the Pharaoh goes right away and gets him out of prison and brings him up there, and he tells him his dream. And Joseph goes, okay, like, I'm going to tell you what your dream means. And he tells him, he was like, your dream basically means that a famine is coming, that you have 7 years before the famine is going to come, and you're going to have good crops. Everything's going to grow. It's going to be plentiful. But after that 7 years, there's going to be 7 years of famine. So what you need to do is store up, build you a big storehouse, store up all your grain, all your food in that storehouse, because that's the only thing that's going to get you through the 7 years of famine. If you do not do that, lots of people are going to die, and everyone's going to be starving. So he trusts him, and he does exactly that. And because he trusts him so much, and because he was the only one who could decipher his dream, he puts Joseph in charge of doing just that, of building the storehouse, of, putting up all the grain, making sure everyone is fed, no one's taking too much, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So he lives that way until the 7 years of famine comes. Now, think back to Joseph's family, who thinks he's gone. Okay, they've done what this whole time. There's the 7 years of good growth and the 2 years he was in prison and however long before that. So it's been a hot minute since they've seen him. They really think he's dead. Okay, or just that they'll never see him again, at least. So it's the 2nd year of the famine, and the dad sends the older, 5, I think, of the older boys to Egypt, because that's the only place where there's any food now, right? Stored up. If you wanted some food, you had to go there to get it. And he sent him with some money and said, go there, get some food, and bring it back for our family, because we have to. Well, they get there, and Joseph is the overseer, but they didn't recognize him when they got there. But Joseph recognized them, and he was upset, okay? He wasn't happy when he saw them. So he just spoke in Egyptian. He acted like he couldn't speak Hebrew, like he didn't know who they were. And he was like, basically just told them, no, I don't think you're here for any food. I think you're here as a spy, and I don't trust you. And the brothers are like, no, we just came to get food. Like, we're not spies, I swear. Like, we have our dad and our littlest brother and our mom and everybody at home. Like, we just came to get food. And he was like, okay, if that's true, then I'm going to put 3 of y'all in jail, and the rest of y'all are going to go back. Well, they're like, okay. And then they go off to the side and start talking. Mind you, they think that he doesn't speak Hebrew, but he does, because they don't know who he is. And he can hear them, talking amongst themselves. And they're basically, talking about how much they regret that all the stuff that they had did to Joseph and how they feel like it's coming back on them now. And then he felt bad. So he felt bad in his heart. He didn't tell them that he felt bad. He felt bad because, you know, when you're a Christian, you're not perfect. He was still angry at them. But God was like, hey, like, listen, he let Joseph hear that conversation for a reason. So he restores their money back to their little, like, on their donkey or their camel or whatever they're riding, okay? He puts it back, which he didn't have to do, okay? They were supposed to be paying for the grain. He gives them their money back, which they don't realize until they get back home. They're like, oh my gosh, we still have our money. Like, why? What's happening? I don't understand. And they tell the dad, like, this is what happened. He gave me the grain. We have our money back. We don't know what's happening. But one of the brothers is still there in prison being held. And finally they come back after they eat the grain, and the dad's like, okay, you have to go back. And they tell the dad, they're like, we can't go back without the littlest brother. He said, you have to bring the littlest brother to prove that you're not spy. And then if you do, I'll believe you. So he goes, okay. And he lets him go. Well, then when they come back the second time, Joseph stands in front of them and he's like, listen, he shows them who he is. And he tells them that he's their brother, that he had sold. And their faces, I can only imagine. I mean, can you imagine? And he tells them, listen, I forgive you. What you did to me, you meant for evil. You meant it to ruin my life. You meant to kill me. You meant to get rid of me. You meant everything that you did for bad. But God used every bit of what you did for good in my life. Look where I'm at right now. You're coming here to ask me for food to save your life. And you sold me into slavery. See how God worked every single bit of what someone else wanted bad for them to work around into good in his life. He had always been in the favor of the Pharaoh. He had always done good because he had stuck true to his convictions. He had not slept with Potiphar's wife, even though she was probably gorgeous and she wanted to. He was like, that's not right, and I'm not doing it. Moral of the story is, if you stick to your convictions, if you believe in God, no matter what life throws at you, what other people do to you, what they say about you, what they try to throw you in the ground. Listen, that's happened to me in my real life. Like, I've had a friend who I thought was really close to me literally do some things that I'm talking about. I'm sitting there like, is this really happening? Like, I don't understand. Like, I have not been nothing but nice to you, and what's going on? And you know what? The old me, or even me when I was newly saved, would have been like, oh, you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you back. Whatever you did to me, I'm doing to you times 10, because that's human nature. That's how we naturally are. The only way that you have peace, joy, patience, the only way that you can be long-suffering with someone, the only way you can do any of that, because it is outside of our nature, is to be a Christian, is to have the Holy Spirit live with us. That's why it's called the fruits of the Spirit. They're not fruits that we have on our own. They're fruits that the Spirit produces inside of us. And so at this point, when that thing happened to me with that friend, I had like gotten close to God. I had been like 4 or 5 years into my Christianity. So I could feel that it was a test. I could feel that God was doing to me like a Joseph thing. So you know what I did? I prayed for that girl. I genuinely wanted God to like open her eyes and show her, you know, that this wasn't the way. And I didn't react. I didn't, you know, tell her about herself like I wanted to. I just remained calm, and I trusted God to get me and my family through that situation, because I'm not going to tell y'all all about it, but it was a situation where we were kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, this is bad. This is stressful. But you know what? Because I did that, it turned into the blessings that I'm living in right now. This house that I'm living in right now is the fruit of that blessing, is the fruit of me trusting God in that time. And I just really, I don't know how many of y'all really know that story of Joseph, but it's a good one. And I thought that you should hear it, because the people in the Bible are so relevant. They're not just some people back in the day. And I used to even like as a new Christian, read from the people in the New Testament and be like, okay, these people, like, once they met Jesus, then that counts, that matters. But like the people in the Old Testament, like they're sacrificing cows and like doing some weird stuff, and that doesn't pertain to me. But y'all, that story that I just told you is from the Old Testament. So don't sleep on the Old Testament. Don't think that it doesn't have anything to teach you, because it does. You have to read it. Like, look at that person that is talking to you about, like, okay, imagine if I was that person. Like, put yourself in their position for a second. Think about if that was happening right now. Like, aside from all the weird, like, otherworldly, like, weird, old-timey stuff that was happening, like, imagine it happening now. Because it has something to teach you. And don't throw it away, because I have been told, okay, Joseph had a coat of many colors like my whole life growing up as a kid. That didn't teach me a thing. I didn't resonate with me at all. But then when I learned, like, look what happened to Joseph, and because he just trusted God, and he was like, whatever's happening, it's happening. Like, God's taking care of me, and that faith is what you need to live on today, tomorrow, 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years from now, if we're still on this earth. Like, that is the faith that you need. Sustaining faith. And without it, you know what? We're just going to be out here worried, stressed out, trying to live on our own strength. And you're not meant to. So if you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulder and you cannot carry it, you can't. Because you're not supposed to. You're not. Am I never stressed out now that I'm a Christian? No. Does nothing bad ever happen to me now that I'm a Christian? No. But it does not throw me down into a pit that I can't climb out of anymore like it used to. Sustaining faith. Like, I'm just like, all right, God, cool. Like, this bad thing just happened. What's it teaching me? Now I ask myself, what is it teaching me? Instead of doing the old, poor, pitiful me. Why did this have to happen? I can't bear it. Everything happens for a reason. He got sold into slavery. That was bad. He sat in prison for something he didn't do. That was bad. All of that happened so that he could stand before his brothers and be like, look at God. Not look at me, look what I did great, but look at God. So whatever you're going through is so that you can stand before people and say, look at God. Look what he did. Not what you did. Don't take credit for God's word. That's where you mess up. Because I want to sometimes be like, man, you know what? I got sober. I lived a bad relationship. I stopped this. I stopped that. I didn't do anything. People message me all the time and be like, I love you so much. You're so great. And all I can ever tell them is the only thing good in me is God. Without him, I am so worthless and such a dirty sinner. Like, just, ugh. And that's how you should look at yourself. But with him, God looks down. Now that I'm saved, God looks down and sees Jesus' life, not my life. He sees the life that Jesus lived because he gave it to me. He lived it for me. And for you, and for everyone else that accepts Jesus. It's not like, listen, I can't get saved because I like to listen to this kind of music and I just don't feel like I can do it. Listen, stop. He fixes you up once you get there. You come to him just like you are. Dirty, messed up, just all your issues, all of it. You come to him just like that. And then little by little, he will fix you. He will take away all your messed upness. You don't wait till you think you got it together and then come to God because that's when you deserve it. No, none of us deserve it anyway. Okay? I came to him on drugs, gay, messed up in the head, 3 kids with 3 different dads, just a hot mess. Okay, as far as you could go down the sin road, that's where I was at whenever I cried out to God. And little by little, he's walked me down, took stuff away from me to this person that you see here today. And guess what? I still ain't got it all together. Not even a little bit. But I'm working on it every day. I get up and I want to be better than the girl I was yesterday, and that's it. I just want to be a little bit closer to God. And you're never there. So you can live your whole life doing that, and it's never over. And that's the beauty of it. So I love you. I'm going to Bible study tonight, and my friend is going with me, and I'm excited because she ain't ever been. And so I love y'all. If y'all want to go to Bible study ever, it's so fun. It's not weird. Like, we just hang out. And the people there are the best, and all the kids just go and do the most and play, and it's awesome. So message me if you want to go to church. That's awesome too. Like, get you a church family, okay? Like, you need it. You think you don't, oh, I can believe in God and just like, I don't have to go to church. Stop. You need to go to church. Okay? You need it. I love you. This is my face. I know this totally wasn't a makeup video, but that's okay. This is what was on my heart today. But have a great Friday. I love you guys. Bye.